Content championship time!
I'm not that worried this week.
Sorry. It's Andor versus James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
Yeah, it's
I
difficult for
hate
you.
it here. So just put this in perspective. Andor beat out WandaVision,
Yeah.
and James Gunn's Suicide Squad beat out Deadpool 1.
Yeah.
So, like, they won some tough battles to get here.
Yeah.
I hate it here.
It's tough for
As
you.
always, our 6 categories are personal relevance,
Yes.
how well has it aged, rewatchability, story, acting, and cinematography / general visual appeal.
Yeah.
You've not seen James Gunn Suicide Squad.
I have now.
Oh, have you?
Oh, not. So I want to say yes, but not 100%. My girlfriend watched it the other week when she was over while I was doing some work. So I was like sort of watching it, but not watching it, if that makes sense. I watched enough of it to kind
I
of
understand why I like it.
Yeah. Oh, and like I saw enough of it to be like, okay, this is better than the first one for sure.
Yeah.
So
It's wild to me that it's even a discussion still.
yeah. So I am more aware of this film now than I was last time we discussed it.
Cool. Personal relevance. Now, as we're into the second round, a lot of this stuff is the same as the first round, but with little changes based on any new information or any rewatches, etc. However, I'm not changing anything in this section.
Okay.
So Andor, it's the best Star Wars show, and it elevates my favorite Star Wars film.
Mm-hmm.
The only bit of that I think you now disagree with is whether it's the best Star Wars show or not.
Yeah.
But we've already discussed that for me, it's still the best Star Wars show.
Yeah.
And it still does elevate my favourite Star Wars film in Rogue One. And then Suicide Squad is just peak James Gunn and is still one of my favourite comic book movies.
This is all fair. And as we saw, you briefly mentioned that, yeah, I would say for me, as we discussed like the other week, Ahsoka probably takes my number one now on Star Wars show. But Andor is like, they're essentially there together. Ahsoka just like personal, little bit preference. Yeah. Andor, like you say, it's a great show. It was, I actually think, turning point with the Star Wars shows. I was like, okay, we are getting some good Star Wars content. Like we'd had Mando, and don't get me wrong, Mando's good. Then we had Book of Boba Fett. Was like, oh, this is a bit weak.
I mean, I had you forget. I tried watching Book of Boba Fett, kept on falling asleep during it, and then had to binge watch it before Mando season 3.
Yeah, and so then it's like Andor comes along, and it's like, oh, okay, we're in the new era of Star Wars. This is great, and like you say, it builds up on Rogue One even more, adds to that, which is already an amazing film. Suicide Squad, last time we talked about this, I didn't watched it. I have now. I now fully agree, like, it is the better Suicide Squad. It is a lot more comic booky, and I like you, I enjoy it for that. Obviously, only recently watched it, but I can see why you like it so much and why it's one of the better DCU era films as well.
DCEU.
EU, sorry, yeah.
Europe.
Sorry, what's that? Who are they?
How well has it aged?
I'd say Andor's aged remarkably.
Well, I think it's still too soon to say for Andor.
I would agree on that.
I think. Do you know what's crazy? And it's always the same, and we've discussed this so many times. People love to hate stuff, people love to have their opinion about something. And then 6 months later on Twitter, everyone in unison just starts having the opposite opinion. So it's like, this is dog shit 6 months later. You know what's really slept on? This thing. Or this is the greatest thing ever. 6 months later, okay, now that everyone's done sucking that thing's dick, everyone say one thing you hated about it. And ironically, Andor was really divisive when it came out.
Mm.
You had a lot of people like, no, it's boring as shit. And then you had a lot of people going, no, this is fucking awesome. And then me and you were just sat there going, no, this is fucking lit.
Yeah.
And then Ahsoka came round, and and then the other half of people were like, this is dog shit. And then the other half of people were like, this is fucking lit. And once again, me and you were sat there like, this is fucking awesome. What are you talking about? I feel like we are two of very few people who vocalize their opinion on the internet regularly. Who likes both of these shows.
Yeah, I think like it's Andor's aged in such a funny way because, like you say, there was people that hated on it, and I think what's happened is back when Andor came out, we just didn't realize that there's two sides of Star Wars fans. There's the ones that like Andor, and there's the ones that like Ahsoka. Some like political shit that goes on in a futuristic world. Some like mystical shit that goes on in a futuristic world. We are of the few that like both. We like Star Wars as a whole.
We are the center segment of that Venn diagram.
We are the Grey Jedi.
Yes.
So I think, in a way, some of those fans that hated on Andor realize that, oh, Andor just wasn't for me. Ahsoka stuff like that is for me, but Star Wars as a whole is great. I think it's aged well in that sense that some of those people that disliked it realize now, oh, it's just the side of Star Wars I'm not that into.
100%.
James Gunn Suicide Squad.
So, do you remember what I said last time?
I don't.
I said it could be argued that it being so good killed the DCEU to make way for the DCU. Because James Gunn came in, when he started the process for this film, he'd been fired by Marvel.
Yeah.
And then during the process, he got rehired by Marvel to come back and finish Guardians.
Yeah.
I think it's the best DCEU movie. And then they've gone to the guy who came up with it. Hey, would you like to just be in charge of the universe in general?
Well, then they had him do Peacemaker.
Yes.
And like, oh, he can do TV shows as well. Maybe he
Definitely.
knows what he's doing. Maybe he does know DC well. I think you're right. I think when you look back now on all the DCEU films, like I would probably agree that like it's the best one there is. I think Man of Steel is very good, but I think Suicide Squad captures that comic feel for the films and in a unique way that stands it out against MCU stuff.
100%. I don't know if it was one of the scenes that you paid a lot of attention to, but the scene where Harley breaks out of the castle and you have her having like a psychedelic trip with all the flowers and that coming out instead of blood.
Yes.
That is a fucking comic book.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'd never seen anyone in like an action film like this have so much fun with the visuals of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you see what, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, we were sat here saying Guardians of the Galaxy might be the greatest comic book trilogy. There's one thing they all have in common.
Yeah, James Gunn.
Yeah. So
I think it's aged well.
I think it's going to continue to age better and better. When you consider how well it did at the box office, bearing in mind it was one of the few films that had a dual release of streaming service and box office at the same time. I think once people actually give it a chance, they're going to realize how goated this fucking film is.
Yeah.
Rewatchability. Andor's got bang average rewatchability for me at the minute.
Yeah, I don't know if I would rush back to watch Andor. It's hard. Well, for me, because I've only just recently watched Suicide Squad, I would probably more likely go watch Andor again. But I wouldn't watch Andor again till all of Andor is done.
Yes, I get that.
Because then I would, once the Andor series is finished, because we know it's leading up to Rogue One, that gives a nice, contained little Star Wars binge of Andor series into Rogue One. Jobs are good and can
100%.
happily enjoy that on a little weekend.
Yeah, I think it's really bad because although, like, I am very much of the opinion that I like to watch stuff that's good, not just dumb fun. When it comes to rewatching stuff, I almost explicitly only rewatch the dumb fun.
Fair.
So like Andor being so like thought provoking and interesting means it's so much deeper in my brain that I'm like, I don't need to rewatch that because I could probably rewrite the script to a good enough degree of accuracy that I'm not really forgetting anything too important.
Yeah, I get you.
So like I don't know about other people, but when I remember something that well, I really don't want to rewatch it because I'm just there like, oh, and then this bit happens, and this bit happens, and this bit happens. I want
I
to
can
be able to
understand
forget
that.
a bit of it or just watch it because it's fun and makes me laugh. Whereas with Suicide Squad, what I said last time was,
Yeah.
although I haven't rewatched it yet, I am keen.
Mm.
I have since rewatched it.
Oh shit. So there you go then.
And I still do enjoy it. So rewatchability is probably about as low as it gets for it right now because I've now seen it twice.
Yeah, but you
it's
have
definitely
rewatched it.
yeah, but it is the kind of film that I could easily go. I would like to eat some popcorn, have a bev, chill on the sofa, and watch something I enjoy, and that could definitely fit that bill pretty regularly.
Okay.
Story.
It's tough because I think we said this last time about Andor. Andor has a very strong story, but it
Yeah, I don't
leans heavily on the fact we know Rogue One.
agree. I am actually pretty easy on this. Andor's story, although yes, it fits in a wider context, is phenomenal. I think you could show someone Andor and they would have enough information from it to
Yeah.
know what's going on and still enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's any like vital information you absolutely have to have, otherwise you won't be able to enjoy this.
Yeah, I would agree on that. I think, especially for like the Star Wars shows, if you look at recently Ahsoka, there was a lot of stuff that need context to or have previously seen, whereas Andor very easily, like someone new could come in and watch that and be fine.
You cannot watch Ahsoka without watching Clone Wars and Rebels beforehand, at least.
Yeah.
And then on the complete other side of it, Suicide Squad is kind of goofy. It's very much action comedy,
Yeah.
but it still it has its beats that it hits pretty hard,
Yeah.
especially with Peacemaker's storyline and everything else going on surrounding that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a masterpiece story for the ages, but it's a solid story. It doesn't take away from the film, and it gives it the perfect situation to be its best self. But pure story, I'd only want to see an adaptation of the Andor story told in a different setting. The Suicide Squad story told in a different setting isn't that crucial to me.
That's fair.
Acting. I have not changed my note for this.
Okay. Go on then.
It is still in block capitals. Andy Serkis.
I thought it was still that. Yeah, I mean Andy Serkis.
I still, far more often than I'd like to admit, think about that scene of him on the microphone, hyping everyone up to get him to fight out.
It literally showed up on my TikTok the other day. So
Rent free. It is rent free.
It's
phenomenal.
The fact that there's so many strong moments of Star Wars, to try and get one like cemented into Star Wars fandom, and that seems to have done it in such a short space of time. Essentially, it's like it just shows to the level of that acting and that moment.
100%.
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. It's solid.
Yeah,
It's Idris Elba. It's
yeah.
Margot Robbie. No one does a bad job. But at the
No,
same time, they don't need to do a phenomenal job.
no. It's like at the end of the day, it is a comic book film.
Yeah.
We've said the story isn't as like intense as what Andor's is.
I will say it's the first project John Cena did that made me give him a bit more respect as an actor.
Yeah.
But a lot of the heavy lifting for respecting John Cena as an actor was done by Peacemaker. Because that actually deals with the character in a bit of a different way.
Mm.
But I mean, yeah, the acting's as good as it needs to be.
Yeah.
Idris Elba and Margot Robbie, we know, are phenomenal actors. If they needed to be even better, they would have found a way to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they all acted perfectly for the level that was required of them.
Yeah.
And then cinematography might actually be the most difficult choice here.
See, yes, there was a lot of stunning visuals in Suicide Squad, like you mentioned earlier, the flower scene and all that, and the way it's shot is great. I think I'm such a sucker for Star Wars that is like there's certain moments and the visual appeal of Star Wars to me that like I just can't not love.
So I get that, I do. And I do think at a base level, Andor is more visually appealing. But at the same time, Andor is trying to capture like a realism of beauty with like a sun in space and these foreign alien landscapes.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Suicide Squad is going for not this cartoony, but like this comic book kind of over exaggeration of certain things, really saturated colors, these like really cool shots that don't necessarily make any sense. Do
Yeah.
you know what it is? It makes me think of you know, when they were shooting Lord of the Rings and they had the massive battle at night and someone asked Peter
Yep.
Jackson where's the light coming from? And he went the same place as the music.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's kind of like idea. It's like, yes, if you really do sit there and look at Suicide Squad, you will find yourself going, "Oh, that kind of working that way doesn't make a lot of sense."
Mm-hmm.
And then you're reminded they're fighting a giant alien starfish, so
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
So while I would never say that Suicide Squad is better looking than Andor, I think it accomplishes what it's trying to do as effectively as Andor.
Yeah.
But Andor is absolutely more visually appealing. Like it's, do you know what it is? It's the whole idea of someone who can do beautiful abstract art
Yeah.
is doing beautiful abstract art. However,
Yeah.
I'm more likely to go wow at someone who's painted a photorealistic bowl of fruit
Yeah.
that's worth 50 pence compared to an abstract art piece worth 10 million.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not deep enough, but
No,
I
I
know
get
what
you.
that is, and I can look at that and go, oh my god, that's crazy. Whereas with abstract art, you have to interpret it. This might be so far the most difficult one for me.
I can imagine it is.
What do you have winning?
So, personal relevance, I would lean to Andor.
Okay.
I would then say rewatchability. I mean, I've only just watched Suicide Squad, so it's like I probably would say Andor because then I think it takes it because I can watch it with Rogue One. It's a nice little chunk of Star Wars world that you can enjoy. How well it's aged. I actually think I would say Suicide Squad because I didn't know much. I hadn't seen it. I have now watched it. I now understand like how good it was, even though it got a lot of initial concern, I guess.
Yeah.
Acting and writing and cinematography. I mean, acting goes to Andor. That's no question, really, for me. Story, I would probably also give to Andor. Cinematography, it's hard. I want to say Andor, but I do also respect like what Suicide Squad did. So unsure. Maybe tie there. Maybe more Andor leaning. For me, this is going to be Andor leaning. Very much so.
I do not disagree in the slightest. Do you know what it feels like? And I'm not saying it is what it is. I'm just saying it's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
You know how we sit here and we say, like, the Batman got robbed of a cinematography nomination at the Oscars because of snobbery?
Yeah.
It feels like we're being snobbish towards Suicide Squad because it's the goofy team-up movie. Whereas Andor's like this political drama piece.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still think Andor accomplishes what it's trying to do better than Suicide Squad accomplishes what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So I think I can agree with
Andor going through.
Andor going through. It does suck because I'd like to see both these get a bit further. But I do think what Andor was trying to accomplish is more difficult to achieve. And I think it did it just as well as Suicide Squad did.
Yeah.
So that makes Andor simply better. But also it's our gut instinct, so who cares if we're being snobs about it?
Yeah.
On the flip side, so each to their own, you know?
Okay, angry Star Wars fans, you can chill out now.
Yeah, everyone take a deep fucking breath, alright? That does mean out of our 3 episodes, out of our 3 round 2s, 2 of the winners have been Star Wars.
What can we say? It's just a great
And we have
IP.
more Star Wars next week.
Oh shit.
Breaking Bad versus Return of the Jedi. You've not seen Breaking Bad?
No.
So that'll be fun.
I'm not.
You've got a week. It's 6 seasons.
Stop. I do not care enough about Breaking Bad to do that.
Yeah. Once we're old and retired from the podcast game, maybe you'll have time to watch it.
Yeah, maybe.
This is not the time of year to be watching stuff for pleasure. There's far too much to be done. But thank you as always for hanging out. This has been an absolute monster episode. We'll be back next week with more Gen V, more Loki, more other stuff. I'm sure there's always more stuff. Oh, wait. Next episode will be the last episode before Spider-Man 2 comes out. How exciting.
Oh. You're going to be frothing at the mouth.
Literally, I'm hardly going to be even listening to you because I'm going to be trying to see if I can find a way to get the PlayStation to let me on early. Have I ever shown the PlayStation?
I don't think you have shown the podcast the limited edition PlayStation in all its glory.
I mean, I can definitely show the controller. That'd be a lot.
I was going to say it's not in frame.
That's the controller.
Yeah.
Because obviously I didn't have a PlayStation.
Just in frame.
Google it if you want to see it. I didn't have a PlayStation because I was an Xbox boy, and then I had a PC. And after playing like the PC release of Spider-Man, I was like, I'm not missing out on Spider-Man again. So then I bought the limited edition one because, you know, I'm an idiot. Buying a house, by the way. But yeah, that is it from us this week.
Yes, it is.
We'll catch you next week. Make sure you're liked up. Make sure you're subscribed up. Otherwise, we'll be at the foot of your bed when you wake up.
Heyo.
Heyo.
Well, we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.